Here we go. We are recording. And you're muted, Shoshana.
You're muted, Shoshana.
Well, welcome everyone to the Empathy Circle. And we're just going to do a quick go around of where you're from and what brings you to the Empathy Circle. And I am having technical difficulties right now. Okay. Yeah, so let's see. Eli, would you like to start?
Sure. I'm Eli, and I'm in Edinburgh, Scotland. And I'm here because I think people should listen to each other more. That's simple. And then I'll go ahead and call people's names. If you could just give us your quick check-in, that would be great.
And we're going to start with the trainers. And the question is, why do you want to be a Empathy Circle facilitator? So just
Okay. So we'll start with you then, Edwin.
Hi, I'm Edwin Rutch from the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy, and I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I've been working about 14 years on, trying to build a more empathic society and culture. And the reason I want to be a facilitator is I think that, or want to kind of spread the practice, is I find it the most effective first step gateway practice. And I'd like everyone in the world, 7.5, 8 billion people, all to learn how this practice, works and be able to do it. And I think that would raise the level of empathy and well-being in the world.
All right, Timothy?
Hey everybody, I'm Timothy Reagan, also in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I practice nonviolent communication, and I try to share that with the world. I host a little radio show every 2 or 3 weeks here in the Bay Area on KPFA. But that's like kind of, radio's hard because I can't hear back from very many people. So I am here because I like in-person human connection. It feeds me. And, I would say empathy is something I'm just kind of like surrendering to. I give up, I need it, I like it, I want it all around me. So by really strengthening my skills and welcoming people into this kind of connection, I'm also, like Edwin, sharing this basic value, this resource, with the world. So that's it, that's me.
Bill?
Yeah, I'm a retired special education teacher. I feel that really being listened, if you look at all the things on TV and stuff, you can boil it down to a lot of people saying, I really want to be heard. And I think that we need a better way of doing it than the way we're kind of role modeling right now. And I think that this is an excellent tool to do it. So I want to spread this. Thanks.
Lou?
Thanks. So I'm Lou Zweier. I'm also in the North Bay in California. And I've been working with Edwin, doing empathy circles and teaching people to do empathy circles for about 2.5 years. This is the 8th or 10th, this is the 10th cohort that Bill and I have led, teaching empathy circle facilitation. And I think that the reason that I love doing these classes because I love connecting with other people like you all, and who want to, create more understanding in the world, who want to create spaces for people hearing each other. Because as Bill said, we need so much more of that. And that there is something more to running a good circle than just following the directions on the page. There are layers of understanding of what makes that happen. And some of the challenges in making that happen. And so that's what we're hoping to help you understand a little bit more in this course.
Thanks, Lou. So Edwin, Bill, and Lou are our master trainers, and they are training Timothy, Eli, and I to become notch our skills up a bit. And so I'm Shoshana. I live in Brooklyn, New York. My son invited me to participate in an empathy circle probably 8 or 9 weeks ago. And I could say, honestly, it's changed the way that I listen. I'm kind of a professional listener. I listen to people's problems mostly. And I realized after my first empathy circle, I was a terrible listener. And I was so busy trying to fix other people's problems, I wasn't present. And this has become an invaluable tool in my life, in my professional life, and my personal life. And I'm very excited about it. And so we want to thank you all for being here. And I thought I had one more thing I was going to say, but I don't think so. I think that's all for me.
Eli, did you have a chance to introduce yourself?
I did.
Okay, sorry.
You started with me.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but now we're going to give everybody else a chance to introduce themselves and just your name, where you're from, and why you want to be here in this facilitator training. So I'll just call out your names and give you a couple of seconds to introduce yourself. So let's start with Cody.
Well, thank you. I'm Cody. I'm from Denver, Colorado. And I think one of the most important things for me in life is just honing relationships. And one of the big aspects of that is communication in whatever way it is. So listening being one of the two aspects of speaking and listening of communication. So it's very simple, and you can't get good enough at it. So that's why I'm here, and I've noticed its effect already in my relationships. So it's just might as well just keep honing the skill.
All right, thank you. And Diane.
Hi, I'm Diane, as you just said, and I'm in New Jersey. And I just got introduced to the empathy circles maybe about a month ago or so. And I think it's a really great process for learning communication skills, listening, and also speaking, because I notice how the speaker has to just kind of slow it down to give the person, make sure the person is getting what they're saying. And then, so it's a whole piece there. And I've been noticing, especially this year, that there's a lot of people who are really hurting, and they're hurting because they don't have such strong connections with other people. And I think I can, through this process, is a way that I can be somewhat of a leader in facilitating people that need to feel heard and need to just connect with other people.
Oh, thank you. And Jane.
I'm Jane from Korea. It is 5 o'clock early morning. Yeah, it's better than before. It was 3 o'clock every time last time, but now it's 5. Yeah. I attended 2 times of the empathy circle, and I found that I'm not a good listener. And I found that I'm a good, in Korea, I thought that I realized today that this happened in worldwide, but I found that Korea, in here, we have a lot of speaker, but there's not many listener. So we are trying to react to the people, not really tentatively listen to the others. So I think this is the best way that I can learn how to be a real listener. So yeah, that's why I attend. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Brandon.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Brandon, and I'm in Brooklyn, New York. And I just felt a really strong call to join this. The reasons are not totally clear to me yet. I do know I want to understand more about myself and understand more about others to help encourage synchrony and all that in the name of service to something in the future that's that I'll be involved with that's yet to be seen. So I'm appreciating this piece of the puzzle. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. And Nadav.
Yeah, hello. My name is Nadav. I'm from Israel. It's 10 p.m. here. And I'm really excited to be here because I was in the empathy circle you did, like you guys did maybe a month ago. And I was with Eli also. And it was it's a very positive experience for me. And I learned a lot. And also I'm part of a community, like a commune in a community who need a lot of empathy and need to give a lot of empathy. So I found it a powerful tool for us to improve our well-being as a community. And I want to spread it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And Heather.
Hi, I'm in San Diego, California, and I guess lucky me because I have the best time zone of noon. And I am a school counselor at an urban middle school here in San Diego. And so empathy is something that I think is a really important skill for all of us to be able to give to each other and also to be able to teach to our children.
Thank you. Deborah.
Hi, I'm Deborah from UK, about 40 miles north of London in a county called Hertfordshire. I've done a couple of empathy circles, and I have quite a history with listening in many ways. I came across Carl Rogers' work when I ran parenting support groups, and we taught basic listening skills, reflective listening, and then I've done various forms of counselling, and currently I'm training care workers in dementia care, and I just think it's such a fundamental skill of connection, and it's needed more than now, more than ever, and I'd like to take this outside of my work, amongst family and friends, and yeah. So that's why I'm here today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And Kate.
Hi, I'm Kate. I'm from the UK originally, but I live in Berlin. So it's 9 o'clock here in the evening, which is really late for me. I'm not sure how I'm going to get through this. Anyway, yeah, it just it feels to me that empathy is really needed now, and it will be needed in future. So it feels like a good thing to put some of my energy into. That's enough from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Susan.
Hello. I'm excited to meet you all. I live in the Bay Area. I've taught people skills, communication in my professional life. I learned that I was out of touch with my feelings and not able to listen to myself very well, which was part of my journey. And listening to others has been an important part for me. And I'm thrilled that Edwin reaches across the globe to connect us. And I want to be part of that. In my senior years, I don't have as much professional work. Here I am.
Thank you. Leslie. You're muted. You have to unmute yourself.
Take two. I'm Leslie. I'm in Vermont, and I'm a mom. And during these months of COVID, I've recently found that empathy circling with my teenage son at home is a really useful tool to have. I also work with young people and would love to share empathy circles with them. And not least of all, I'm a storyteller and a filmmaker, and I am pretty invested in helping to co-create a new story for humanity that is about our interrelatedness and you know, no longer drawing upon the same old tired theme of us versus them. So empathy and the work that Edwin does definitely makes me really excited along those lines as well.
Thank you. Kian.
I'm Kian. I'm the teenager at home. Leslie's my mom. And I'm also in Vermont. And I think empathy is really important for people being heard and therefore getting their needs met. And I think a lot of people have a lot of needs right now, and I think this is going to be very crucial.
Thank you. Sharon.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sharon. I'm in Exeter in the southwest of the UK. It's 8 p.m. here. Yeah, it's just so lovely to see you all. I'm training to be a psychotherapist or a counsellor, as we call it here in the UK. But that's a lot of the work we do is very one-to-one, and I really like the idea of this because it's groups. So I get a bit more of my listening skills, but in a different way. I've been involved with politics previously for quite a few years, so it also ticks a massive box for me with the polarization issue and bringing people together from across divides. And I just think it's incredible how Edwin has got everybody from around the world. I absolutely love speaking to you all from different places. It's absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Kat.
Hiya, my name's Kat and I'm based up opposite place to Sharon in the UK in North East Scotland. So it's just after 8 o'clock here, and I've sort of coming from two positions. So from a personal point of view, I've kind of had situations where I felt that there was something missing or needed and I couldn't find it anywhere. So I felt like it needs to be created. And then I was searching for empathy related sort of opportunities, and then I found this and I was like, that absolutely ticks the boxes for what I feel. Like it's something I feel in my heart quite intensely, and it's quite intense, so I just know there's something really important about it. And then from a professional point of view, I have a global kind of support role in learning systems where I communicate and train across the world and globally, so then I connect with people across the globe all the time. So then that's another reason why I feel this is really really good. So there's lots of reasons and excitement from me.
Thank you. George.
Excuse me, aloha from Hawaii. I came into awareness about empathy several years ago through nonviolent communication, NVC. And then I've taken a break, and recently, about a month ago, I was in kind of a intro Empathy Circle practice group and discovered this amazing effort and resource. And I was looking because in our spiritual community and in some of the organizations I'm with, it's been said before, so many people have something to say and they try so hard to be heard, but it just seems to be falling on deaf ears. And I really appreciate the simplicity and the effectiveness of what this practice offers. And I was able last night to do the practice so I could get my 2 in before we started here. And we really had a great time in introducing more people in my local circle to this practice. So looking forward to starting maybe an empathy cafe where people can come together at least on a weekly basis just to share what's going on for them during these crazy times, and actually be heard with the active listening. So thank you very much, and so appreciative of all the work that's been done. I'm just amazed at the websites and the materials. So thank you.
Thank you. And John, who says his name is Kelly on the screen. Is it Kelly or is it John?
So yeah, I have two names, so either one is fine. I wasn't really sure which one would be where, but yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say that hasn't been said as far as my interest in empathy circling. I think it's useful personally, and for my interest in becoming a facilitator is kind of like a first step in sort of exploring different like facilitation or leadership type things that may be of interest to me like long term. So that's partly why I'm interested in taking this training. I'm also a part of different like online communities that I feel would quickly start like a regular practice with just having them introduced basically. And then long term, I think something like empathy circling can help just like upgrade the communication norms that, you know, like one big one is that it's currently somewhat impolite to admit that you're not hearing, like, oh, I didn't understand what you said, you know, but just having the tools, if you know that people in your life have done an empathy circle, right, and you can just drop into this mode, it's like that could just change a lot of the just everyday way we talk to each other. So I think that's pretty promising as well.
Thank you. And Greg.
Hi, yes, my name is Greg, and Greg Horning, and I'm in New Mexico, USA, on Native American land. And I've done the training, I think a couple times, and dropped in on a few circles as well. And I'm doing this again because it still makes me nervous. I still get kind of uneasy in my belly and stuff when I'm trying to do facilitating or even just participating. But I like it because I think it's a part, kind of goes hand in hand with various kinds of mindfulness, like Joanna Macy and the work that reconnects. I mean, they're all part of a puzzle. Oh, and I just wanted to say, I'm not wearing a hat to have an attitude or something. It's just, I'm on a south-facing window and we're at 6,000 feet and the light is intense. So I'm not trying to shut people out. I just can't see without the hat on.
Thank you, Greg. I think that's everybody, and I'm going to turn it over to Bill. But if there's somebody I missed, jump up and down and wave your hands.
Okay, we're good. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Glad to have you here. I want to echo the feelings of welcome and just that everybody's from around the world, and it's very exciting for me. So thank you, and thank you for your efforts. The purpose of learning this practice is to build a culture of empathy. As Edwin says, this is a basic building block. So we hope to give you the basic, technological and schematic, some experience, some self-assessment of your, where you are in the process, and hopefully that you will go on not as just a single person, but as part of our empathy, our empathy group, whatever we call it. I don't know what we call it. Yeah, to be determined. All right. So the learning outcomes that we hope you take away from this training are that we hope you understand, become familiar with the goals, values, and the core structure of the empathy circle so that you can guide others through the experience. Additionally, we hope to deepen your experience of being in an empathy circle. We believe the empathy circle is a dynamic experience of empathy, as changeable and as constant as the ocean. There are processes at work in us during this time that transcend whatever topic we might be talking about, and we hope to give you the space to experience empathy on your own terms. Third, we want to help you become aware of your strengths and weaknesses as a facilitator and to learn to respond to typical challenges that can arise in an empathy circle. And finally, we hope you leave this training having established strong bonds with each other and continue to support each other with your training and growth towards building a culture of empathy. Although this training is short, we view the practice of listening and facilitating as a lifelong practice akin to physical exercise. So in this course arc, the first session, this session, the goal is to review the empathy circle practice, to be introduced to some of the core values of a culture of empathy, and to experience the benefits of the practice. I would say, hopefully in every session, you'll experience the benefits. The second session will focus on practicing the how-to, and then you'll have a little practicum as far as facilitating, the nuts and bolts of an empathy circle. In the third session, we'll practice the how-to again, the introduction, how you do an empathy circle, and then we'll present more challenging circle situations if you're ready. And I need to emphasize, everybody can go at their own pace, and I guess that's all I need to say about that. You're totally entitled to go at your own pace. In the fourth session, we'll get more time to facilitate and discuss the challenges that might arise. Hopefully, we'll also think about the culture of empathy. You hopefully get the gist and the basic skills. Now we're looking out, towards the horizon. And in the fifth session, we'll have some feedback. That's an optional session at this point. And now I'm going to turn it over to Timothy, and he's going to talk about some of the core values of a culture of empathy. So Timothy?
Thank you, Bill. First, I just wanted to kind of +1 and emphasize something you said about this particular group building bonds so that we can really encourage and support each other over time, that being part of this. So by practicing together, hopefully connecting. And there are ways to continue our connection to support each other. I just love that. And then Bill, I put that little, the quote around the ocean in the chat. I'm really touched by that too. Really appreciate that. So, okay. So this practice, our practice, is based on several core values. And if you think about it, what values can support human beings being fully heard? So the Empathy Circle practice is part of a larger vision of a culture of empathy. That is this vision and this dream of building a culture based on mutual empathy between all people of the world, as well as between humans and nature, our living systems all around us. This is about this deep form of connection and understanding. And so we could even look out farther to the horizon and ask this: what would it feel like to live in a culture where we practice and value empathy every day? What would it feel like? So from my perspective in nonviolent communication, we have our feelings because needs or values, our fundamental values, are being enlivened or caught or aren't met, right? So what would it feel if these values I'm about to share with you were fulfilled and made real around you and around your whole culture? So I want to say this though, these values are still a work in progress, and you're a part of building these and clarifying them. So hopefully you'll add your understanding in our work together. Okay, so let's see here. I'm going to ask Edwin, if you don't mind, to post to the chat these values, and these are the lists. This is a list of this initial kind of bit of work that's been done so far. Value number 1, empathy. Empathy is at the core of a culture of empathy. And what is that? It's sensing and feeling into the experience, the felt meanings and thoughts of ourselves and each other. Mutuality. In the circle, mutuality means following the structure provided to ensure everyone gets an equal chance to be heard to their satisfaction. Third value, openness. Openness about oneself and about different points of view. Another value, care. Seeing everyone's common humanity and having a sense of warmth for our shared humanity. Another one, culture of curiosity. Curiosity about others and what's important to them. 3 more here. First being honesty. Honesty about saying what's important to you, even if it's different from other people's ideas and feelings. Next one, inclusion. Inclusion, recognizing the richness of diversity itself and taking action to include that diversity, to include all perspectives. And finally, equality. Equality. There is no hierarchy in a circle. Everyone participates as a person, not as a role. For example, boss, employee, facilitator, participant, parent, child, and everything. So I just want to name these again: empathy, mutuality, openness, care, curiosity, honesty, inclusion, and equality. And as I say these words, I want to ask you again, how would it feel if one or more of these values was made real? Not just in a circle you're participating in, but at work, in your family, in your neighborhood, in politics. A culture is that which suffuses all of our actions and behaviors and choices and language and everything, right? What if those things were more embodied and activated, right? In the culture we live in. And so just wanted to bring that question to you and express that all to you. And maybe we could just take a little breath just for 10 seconds and imagine what that might feel like. And maybe, which one of those values stands out for you in this moment? Just a couple moments to take it in. Cool. Well, thanks for being with me and reflecting on these values, kind of underpinning the vision, right? Animating this work. And right now, I'd just like to hand it over to Edwin there to take us into a related conversation about our shared values.
Okay, thanks, Timothy. So we were talking about the basic values of a culture of empathy, and it is a work in progress. And we had asked you all to share your most important values. I just wanted to share that on the screen here, what our cohort's most important values are. And this is a word cloud of those values. You can see it's a really, it's really quite a wide variety of values, everything, it's from honesty to mutuality. So the more people voted for one value, the larger it is. And I did put empathy, I added a couple extra votes for empathy to make it larger. So I'm stacking the deck here. But what we want to do, and when we go into the empathy circle, is talk about your values. If your value is mutuality or compassion or open-mindedness or simplicity or purpose or courage, how does your value relate to empathy? Because in the culture of empathy, we sort of place empathy as sort of a central primary social value. And we try to relate our values to how does that relate to empathy and a culture of empathy. And so just wanted to kind of prepare you for our empathy circle. And so that's the essence there. Let me stop the sharing. And so I think we're going to Lou. So
yeah,
to prepare you for the
thanks.
circle, the how-to, Lou's going to share that.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so as Edwin says, we are gonna do an empathy circle in a few minutes. We're gonna start one. We're gonna go into breakout rooms and do an empathy circle around the topic of a culture of empathy and how your values relate to that. And I just wanna say also that the list, the attributes that Timothy talked about are not, that's not an exhaustive list. That is some of the values that we, if you do those things, if you are open, if you are empathic, if you are mutual, if you are mutual with people, these are some of the things that create a culture of empathy. You are actually working to create a culture of empathy if you do those things and you invite other people into them. That's part of what Empathy Circle process does. So one of the things that you will do as a facilitator of a circle is introduce people to the circle. You know, explain to them what the circle process is. And next week, you will get a chance to practice doing an introduction. And I know all of you have attended empathy circles already, so you know what it is. But there's a great, it's good to experience different people doing an introduction. So I'm gonna do an introduction the way I do it. So you'll see what that's like. And over the course of this class, you'll get to hear lots of different people doing introductions, and there's a lot of good learning that comes from that. So this is the way I introduce people to Empathy Circle. So an empathy circle is usually, done among a small group of people, usually 4 or 5 people, including the facilitator. And it's a chance for people to speak and be heard. That's the primary thing. And it creates understanding and connection by doing that. And the way it works is people take turns speaking. And so someone becomes the speaker, someone takes a turn as a speaker, and before they start speaking, they select someone else in the circle to reflect back what they are saying. And the speaking turns are timed. So normally we do 5 minutes, sometimes you might do 3 minutes. So it's usually between 3 and 5 minutes. And while the speaker is speaking, after you get an idea or two out as the speaker, then you pause so that the reflector can reflect back what they understand you are saying. And the reflector's job is just to do that, just to reflect back to the speaker what you understand they're trying to say. And that is different than what happens in normal conversation. So normally, if you're listening to someone, you might respond with a question, or you might comment on what they are saying, or add your own experience, or agree or disagree with them. Those are all kind of normal responses to someone speaking. And in the empathy circle, that's not what we do. We're really just reflecting back what you understand the person's saying. And it is really different, and it feels different. So it'll feel a little weird to do this, and that's fine. And if you forget to do it, if you do one of those other things as a facilitator, I'll remind you that your role as the listener is just to reflect back what you're hearing the person say. And everyone in the circle listens to the speaker, but one person, whoever they select, their role is to be the reflector. So the speaking and the pausing and the reflecting go on until the time limit is up, which is 5 minutes, let's say. And then the facilitator gives the speaker a time cue. Either a sound goes off on the phone, or they'll hold up a sign or something. The speaker wraps up what they're saying, gets a final reflection, and then the listener, the reflector, becomes the speaker, and they select someone else in the circle to reflect them back. And in that way, the speaking and the listening goes around the circle. And when everyone's had a chance to speak, then you just continue to go around again for whatever amount of time you have together as a group. And the goal is actually to get to a 3rd or 4th turn of speaking. That's when things get interesting. And again, this is unusual. So if this sounds weird to you, that's normal. It is kind of weird. It's different. It's not a normal conversation. And but something very interesting happens when people do this together. And that's the thing I want you to experience. And so if it feels weird to you, just hang out with it and try it and see how you feel by the end of it. As a facilitator, there are a couple things I'll do. One, I will keep time and I'll give people cues. If the speaker forgets to pause after an idea or two, I'll remind you to do that. The reflector can also ask the speaker to pause, but most people are challenged to do that. So as a facilitator, I will ask the speaker to pause if you forget to do that. And the other thing I'll do is I'll remind the reflector that if you're doing something other than just reflecting back what you understand, you know, if you're asking questions or commenting or whatever, agreeing or disagreeing, I'll remind you that, you know, when it's your turn to speak, you could say whatever you want. But when you're in the role of the reflector, your job is just to reflect back what the person's saying. Okay. I guess the other thing I might do as a facilitator is if someone has difficulty reflecting back what the speaker's saying, I might help with that. So that's something I might do also. So that's it. That's the basics. Does anyone have any questions before we start? So that's how I generally introduce the goal is to give people enough information that they understand how to participate without overwhelming them with too many details. And the other thing that it's good to do as a facilitator is to tell people what you will do, you know, that you might pause them or you might remind them if they forget, because people will do that. And if you've said that you're going to do that, then it seems less shocking, and people are more prepared for it. And you might feel more safer to do it because you've told people you're going to do it. Because a lot of facilitators, you know, in the beginning you have trouble intervening if you need to. People are reluctant to do that or maybe feel shy about doing that. Some people do. Okay. So what we're going to do next actually is go into our empathy circles, and the topic is, what are the values of a culture of empathy, and how do your personal values relate to empathy? Any other?
Or whatever is alive for you.
Yeah, obviously. Oh, that's actually an important part of the intro that I left out, which is that if there may be a topic for the circle, or there might not be. And regardless of whether there is a topic or not, when it's your turn to speak, you can talk about whatever you want, and that it's important to do that, because that's what keeps the circle alive, is that people are talking about actually what's important to them in the moment. That's a really important thing to put in the intro. All right. So, any questions before we split up into breakout rooms? Deborah?
I'm Jane. I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last time when I attended, I took a notes. For example, like some keywords that I think are important words not to forget when I reflected. So, is it recommendable if taking a note?
Yeah, yes, it's okay to do that. And when I hold empathy circles in person, I make sure there are sheets of paper and pencils on the table for people that might want to take notes. I didn't include that in my introduction, but that is one of the details that, you know, I didn't include, but yeah, it's fine to take notes if you want to. And then Deborah, you had a question too. I saw a hand up.
Yeah. Are all the breakout rooms recorded?
No, I think we're just recording the main room.
Just the one. Wherever, if you see me, it's being recorded.
Okay,
so
Edwin's recording his breakout room.
The recording follows me, and I'll probably be joining Timothy's group.
Woohoo! All right, we'll see you on the other side of your empathy circle.
Okay, see you there. And we have an hour and 15 minutes for the circle. I'll give a 10-minute warning before we close.
As if you couldn't get enough already.
I know, but I gotta say, Kiana, I'm gonna speak for you. You got your wish, buddy.
Yes, I was hoping to be with you, Timothy. Yeah.
Hey!
And I put the two of you together. You won't be in the future groups. You'll be Leslie and Kian. So just thought maybe we start with you together. And I'm also sort of doing the technical stuff, so I may pop out. So, but take it away, Timothy. Here.
Okay, great. The first thing I want to offer is let's stretch our bodies for like 2 minutes and move just to get relaxed. 2 minutes, and I'm going to be right back. I'm going to stretch my body in the bathroom, but then after that, so like literally 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, come on, let's wiggle it out. We're going to do some good work together. I'll be back. Thank you for your patience and your stretchy, healthy humanity. Okay, let's wait for Susan to arrive back. And meanwhile, I invite us all to just actually not only feel your own body, but feel your own heart and see what's important to you, you know. Now remember, we have a focus for this particular empathy circle, and that focus is a particular question. So just as we settle in, hi, Susan, welcome back. And that question is, how do your values relate to empathy, a culture of empathy? Or you can share whatever is alive for you, whatever is real and wants to be expressed. So that's a really important principle to remember, that everybody has self-determination about what you want to share, and we want to hear what really matters to each other, yes? So how do your values relate to empathy and a culture of empathy, or whatever is alive for you? And once again, our basic process, in any one moment, you'll be in one of two roles. I'll be the facilitator. And so that role's, I've got that covered. And my role will be to support each of us in time and the process unfolding, right? So the process is, hey, if you're speaking, you'll have, let's go for 5 minutes. You'll have 5 minutes to express yourself, and you'll be invited to pick one person to speak to, and that person will have an opportunity to actively respond to you to see if they're getting you and understanding you. We call that a reflection. Okay, so it's kind of like, as a speaker, you get to express yourself and be heard to your satisfaction. That's the goal. And so the person listening to you, the listener, that role, your only role is to seek your best understanding of that other person's experience and try to say it back in a way that that person really gets a sense that you're understood, right? Now, there is one other role, technically, and that is the silent listener. You get to relax and observe the interaction and extend your empathy and understanding to the person speaking as well. But you won't be saying anything. You just get to quietly observe this person expressing, and well, that's silent empathy, right? And so on these roles, I am here to support. So if a listener says, I couldn't quite get that, or I'm struggling, I'm here to back you up as a listener. So you can even relax when you're listening. You don't have to get this right. There's not right or wrong. There's just a willingness to intend to understand somebody and try to express. So that's a basic overview, what we can do. And I'm proposing 5 minutes to express yourself. And a helpful tip is, as a speaker, you might want to pause after not too long to give your listener a chance to see if they got you. In addition, as a listener, it's actually okay to say, okay, one moment, I want to make sure I got all that. That's a lot. I don't want to forget. It's okay to give a little time out or interrupt and say, let me see if I got that. And so that's helpful too. So I'm going to pause right now. That's my basic overview of what our intention is, the process. I'm wondering if you have any questions about how this might proceed for the next hour or so, a little bit over an hour. Any questions at all about the process or clarifications?
Yeah, I have one.
Please.
You said that you can speak for 5 minutes, but it doesn't have to be, you don't have to like fill the time. You can just do however much you, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I find that it works best is if you feel heard and you're done and you're like, cool, I'm quiet. I'm really nothing else to say. Say, I'm done, I'm complete. And then once you're done speaking, your listener will become the new speaker. Forgot to say that. And then they'll get to pick somebody else to listen to them. So yeah, you don't have to fill the 5 minutes. And Kian, I don't know about you, but hey, you give me 5 minutes, I need it. I need some help understanding myself, self-empathy. I mean, having somebody listen to me, that's a treasure. So I tend to go for that whole 5 minutes, even if I'm just being quiet for a moment to do that. Okay, cool. So now to begin, I would like any of us to volunteer to be the first speaker. Any of us, based on if you have something that you feel you really want to express. Once again, the question is this. Go ahead, Susan. Already a nice hand came up. I really trust that. Who's got something to express? So once again, Susan, 5 minutes and I'll time. How do your values relate to empathy and a culture of empathy, or anything that you'd like to share? Please choose a listener before you begin.
Leslie, I invite you to listen.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. Empathy and intimacy are a very central piece of my life. I have taught it as a psychology professor. I have a consulting practice and deep personal needs to be close, to be heard and understood.
Thank you. So I'm hearing that in many facets of your life, as a teacher, as a consultant, and personally, that intimacy and empathy, which supports intimacy, is really central for you.
Thank you. Yes. I realized that as a child, I was pretty good at becoming the kid that my mother wanted me to be. She had lots of expectations, and I became that without being my inner expression. Lost touch with some of who I am, my feelings.
So in earlier years, you had the experience of having a mother who made clear to you who and what she expected you to be. And as a consequence, you really lost touch with that deep, true inner you. Yeah.
And I went into psychology, like most psychologists, out of my own personal needs to figure out what the hell was going on. And I heard this bit about journey to the center. I hardly knew what center meant. 78 years old. I'm very clear right now. It's been a long, important journey for me.
So you went into psychology in an effort to discover what was to be discovered, what was not known to you, and journeying to the center meaning that was not what was known to yourself, has led you to really become acquainted with who and what is at the center of you.
Thank you. I am surrounded by loving, compassionate, empathic people. I'm actually in 5 different groups where we talk about stringing the beads. Each person is a bead that creates a beautiful necklace.
So you're part of Community 5, communities where you have an intimate and empathic experience with others who share an understanding that we are all individually part of some beautiful whole.
Thank you so much. So beautifully reflected, Leslie. One group is a group of 5 couples, and we explore what it means to be a couple. Like, most people don't talk about aging, sex, money. We're totally there for one another when there's a crisis among any couple. I turn to that couples group when I'm having issues with my beloved Marlin.
So one of these groups is a group of peers where you all venture into the taboo areas of aging and sex and money, and you have, it sounds like, a community who is really there for you and who you really trust to go to with anything and everything.
This group recently, within the last 2 weeks, had our first member die. It was a huge loss. And yet, the support for his widow, the fact that we saw their marriage blossom during our group, and that they were in love and in touch as he died, that they had accepted one another, seems like the greatest possible gift within a couple.
So you're sharing that one of your group recently died, and that he and his partner were absolutely unto one another, there with one another, and that this group really encircled this woman he left behind.
And 5 minutes ain't much. Thank you, Leslie. I really feel you right here with me. It's a treasure.
Thank you. Let's see, Timothy, would you listen?
Absolutely. Thanks, Leslie.
Yeah. So having been in a couple of these circles, I'm recognizing I often have a need to just sort of pause, and in this case, you know, like all the more as Susan was sharing what she did, I had this, like I just really felt in my heart space, and just sort of that squishy, you know, thing that happens in our hearts when we're feeling with somebody, you know, that brings tears and brings a shared sorrow. And I also had this like sort of moment of, uh-oh, like, can I be in these places, you know, at the same time, like really attending to what is arising in my heart, and also be holding this space with Susan.
Yeah, you were touched in a tender place. You're moved hearing Susan, and you were with her, bringing your attention and your presence to her, and you're affected by that. And you're pulled, maybe after she's done, before you speak, to just pause. And it elicits this question, right? Like, how can I be there so deeply with somebody else and then shift and express myself kind of quickly after that? You want to be able to do both. You have a bit of a question about how to do that. Kind of really honoring your own experience. And I heard the word squishy. I like that. That's squishy heart was moved, right? It was affected. You were affected. Did I get close there?
You did, yes. Yeah, so one of the values, to speak to our topic, that I put into this was heart knowing. And we live in a culture that I perceive as being really very guided and dependent on the way that we know with other parts of ourselves, such as the mind, rationality, logic. And I, through life in many different places, my son's education, for one, we're homeschoolers. You know, from early years, I am constantly seeking ways to honor the knowing that we have with our, or the bodies that we live in, with our hearts, with our fuller selves. I'll pause there, Timothy.
Got it. Yeah. Heart knowing with our body, the wisdom of our bodies and our kind of whole selves, as distinct or a little bit separate from the intellectual knowing, which is, you know, reinforced in our surrounding society and everything. But you've really worked on creating what's the word? It's not really a bubble, but it's like a temple, like homeschooling, really wanting your son and yourself to really practice this kind of knowing, right? That you value very much, heart knowing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, you know, that to me seems like an obvious fit with empathy and empathy circles, to know how to listen from one's heart, to honor that and to move with it, to speak from one's heart, to me has much to do with what I'm doing here today. And I think probably many of us in empathy, wanting to support a culture of empathy. And yeah, and you know, sort of the broader context of people not here with us today, there are a lot of hurting hearts, whether people acknowledge that that's what is going on for them, you know, beneath the anger and the vitriol and a lot of what's flying around these days in our country. There's a lot of, I'm guessing, pain and fear and grief. And I think when we don't recognize that in ourselves, it comes out in really unskillful ways, to say the least.
Got it. Okay, so that's our time, and I'll reflect that last couple pieces. The first is you talked about the value of listening from the heart and honoring that and moving from that when you're with others, and that really, you know, as well as speaking with and speaking from that place. So you have that, you care about that. And also you're just acknowledging what you imagine and what you see and perceive as a big bunch of pain, whether it's conscious or not, whether people know how to handle it or not. Pain, fear, anger, I'm sure other flavors of pain that you're seeing happen. And when it's not addressed in a healthy, skillful way, maybe with empathy, it comes out in ways that just maybe cause even more harm and just even more pain. Did I get close to that?
Yeah, yes, thank you. I feel heard. Thank you, Timothy.
Cool. Thanks, Leslie. Sorry about that. I just muted myself, but it's time to speak. I'm not going to mute myself. I'm gonna take this opportunity. Okay. I want to talk to Kian. Kian, would you be there to be able to listen to me and respond and hopefully meet me with empathy?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's see. Oh, I just want to start with what's alive right now. It's so beautiful right now. I'm looking out my window to the ocean, the Pacific Ocean. And it's sunny and it's warm and I kind of want to go play and I want to go run around and play freeze tag with the kids and the peoples, my neighbors, and, you know, and just like breathe in and lie down. Actually, I want to go for a bike ride. My body is hungry for a rigorous workout.
All right, so you want to be with what's alive for you right now, which is it's beautiful outside, you're seeing the ocean, and you want to go be in your body, play bike, play freeze tag, or go on a bike ride.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Maybe do some archery. That'd be fun today. You know, enjoy the fresh air and like get into a meditative practice, you know, with your body, with my body. To do that, that'd be really neat.
Yeah, you're wondering about doing some archery, which feels like sort of a meditative practice in your body.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that feels good. Thanks for hearing me. Let's see. In terms of, oh, I know. What I didn't say, first introduce ourselves in the larger group for this training. I didn't say something, and I realized that I was just kind of nervous and I wanted to move past me really quickly. You know, I was like, I want to hear from other people. But there's one thing I didn't say, and that is I have a really a broken heart and a heart that's full of concern, deep concern for the well-being of democracy. Democracy being basically a giant empathy circle where people can hear each other and make decisions together based on shared values, and including the values of rivers and life around us, right? I'm worried about it and I have deep concern about it, and I kind of have heartbreak. And so I'm really still really hurting from that big bunch of white men and a few women who violated the seat of our democracy in my country, you know? I'm still really alarmed and hurting by that. And so it's fortified me showing up with rigorous courage to tell the truth and speak with honesty and listen with empathy. It's fortified, you know, why I'm doing this. So I wanted to get that out.
First of all, there's something you forgot to say when we were in the larger group, because you were feeling sort of nervous and you wanted to get on to the next. And you have a strong, deep concern for the well-being of our democracy, which is, as you said, just a really big empathy circle that includes also the natural world and others. And you're feeling really, I don't know if you said discouraged, but about the recent interruption, violation of the empathy circle that we are guided by.
Yeah, what I wish would be an empathy circle. It's not, maybe it's more complicated than that, our government decision making, right? But I wish there would be more empathy there. But it is still a good hope, and I believe in democracy, and I really want to see that nurtured and protected, right? Really strongly. And so these empathy circles are kind of a foundation of shared healthy decision making, in my opinion. And so practicing this is so helpful. And then this is about 5 minutes, so please go ahead and reflect.
You're really wanting, you're hoping and wanting our government to be more of an empathy circle and have more empathy in it. And sorry, I forget the last thing you said.
Oh, just practicing here really supports that, right? Like building my capacity to be part of democracy, to really include everyone's voice so we can make decisions that serve the most people.
Yeah, so practicing empathy circles really grows empathy. And you really want to spread that into our democracy. And
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you, kid. I feel heard. Thank you so much.
Okay, I guess I'll talk to Edwin.
Listening?
Yeah. I guess first what's alive for me right now is I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed, really, because I really wanted to reflect back what Timothy was saying, but I was also feeling like I'm trying to hold on to a lot of stuff, and that was feeling challenging for me because I wanted to, I really wanted to be there to listen to him, but it was also hard.
Yeah, it was, you really wanted to be there for Timothy to listen and be able to reflect, hear and reflect well, but it was challenging. It was hard because there was quite a lot there.
Yeah, and I did hear that, the listener can, not interrupt, but say that they could you pause for a minute? I want to reflect that back. And I don't know, I just feel maybe it's because I'm younger. It feels like it would be disrespectful to do that, so I'm hesitant to do that. But I feel like that would be helpful for me.
Mm-hmm. So you feel it would have been helpful to ask Timothy to pause. You felt a little kind of hesitant to actually ask him to pause because you thought, well, maybe it's disrespectful. It's kind of an age different. He's here, and so you're just sort of aware of that.
Yeah. In values, I think empathy and nonviolence for a long time. I've heard those words and their meanings and what they can do from my mom a lot, and I understand that, and but I haven't really thought about I naturally give empathy when I feel moved to do that, but I haven't really stepped back and looked at it in the way that I am now, in the frame of empathy circles.
So you've heard about empathy and nonviolence, but and you can empathize with people, but you haven't sort of like stepped back and really looked at the sort of the dynamics of that to really, sounds like maybe try to understand it more deeply or better.
Yeah. And from here, it's always been something that's very important to me. I care about others, human, not human. I care about myself. I care. But one second. Yeah, it's been really helpful for me to understand here, because this unfortunately is often guiding. It's been helpful to understand that, so when I can choose not just follow my emotional empathy or not empathy, I can choose to give or ask for it, and that's been really, really helpful.
Okay, so you have a lot of care. You have care for yourself, you have care for others, and care in general. And you have found it helpful to have this understanding because it gives you more choice, to make a choice of which direction, what you're going to do. And it sounds like you appreciate having that, maybe having that choice.
Yeah, I feel heard.
Okay, cool. Then speak to Susan. And you're muted.
No longer.
Yes. I had a little concern. I wonder if we'd set the question of how do your values relate to a culture of empathy and a culture of empathy. So I just sort of am wondering how that question works for people. If people, if people feel comfortable with that, if it's clear. Timothy had told me once, I didn't really clear on what you mean by that. So I'm kind of curious if it's clear or it's kind of a muddled question.
Yeah, this important question of values, you're questioning yourself, whether that's working for people.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. And the sort of the idea that this sort of came from is that I had gone to the Republican convention and asked Republicans about what values were important to them. And they said, you know, protection is important. And, you know, and I just did empathic listening with them, reflected, and then, you know, just heard that this value of protection, anybody comes, you know, robs my house, I'm going to try to protect myself. So that was a value, was protection. And then, you know, kind of hearing that was, you know, kind of interesting.
Yeah, so you went to the Republican convention to understand the people and to listen to their values and protection. Yeah, and some fear about invasion of their homes or something.
Yeah, they had fear. It was related to fear. But then my goal was to say, well, how do their values, or these people I was talking with, relate to empathy? So I said, well, I understand that you want to protect your home, you know, from people. And it seems to me that people who are empathic are not going to be stealing your stuff, right? Because they'd be sensitive and aware of what's, you know, of your well-being. And they said, yeah, I guess empathy is important. And then I said, yeah, and what can we do together to create more empathy in the world? Because then you'll feel more protected and less fear. Yeah, I didn't say fear, but you kind of added that, which was exactly on the mark.
Well, you went to this Republican convention to listen and empathize. And I hear that you went with an agenda to support and advocate for empathy.
Yeah, and we came on the same page. It became like, well, how do we work together to create more empathy? So that's what I'm kind of curious in, is like, you know, Kian says care is important. Well, how does care relate to empathy? You know, what is the relation? You know, I hear that, you know, bodily experience, that sense of warmth, you know, towards others. And, you know, how does that, you know, relate to empathy? What does that have to do with empathy and creating a culture of empathy?
Yeah, so the care includes warmth, heartfulness, and you wonder how that part relates to the culture of empathy.
Yeah, and all those other values that were listed. So that's sort of my question, is like, can I hear people's values? Can I relate it to empathy, sort of as this central organizing value, and then bring, you know, make the connection for people. And then we have a common shared value, you know, for this raising the culture of empathy. And we're working on the same sort of foundational value as a goal to really raise that value. And it relates to their values. They can see how that relates to their values.
Well, looking at the values underlying empathy, to see what is really valued by people who value empathy.
Or even if they don't, they say they value protection. They didn't say anything about empathy, but I made the connection. And they got it. I mean, their eyes lit up, and we had a great, you know, really great connection. Yeah.
Your empathy opened them to learn and explore with you.
Yeah, that's right. And it was a real sense of connection there too. So anyway, I'm just sort of sitting with that question, trying to explain, like, how did we get to this? So I'm just kind of giving a bit of an explanation to it. Yeah.
Yes. So, Edwin, you're exploring empathy and relationship in some creative ways to understand and to feel that connection with everyone.
Yeah, I feel fully heard to my satisfaction. Thank you.
Yeah. How about Timothy?
Hello, Susan.
Hello.
I'm listening.
I thought I'd share my values, but I've got something else going on inside me. I honor the masculinity of you three men. in the insurrection, I saw some terrible version of masculinity that wanted to believe and take over and be right and be in control. And whatever vulnerability seemed to turn into violence.
Can I pause you there? I want to make sure you're expressing a gratitude for a masculinity that you see in me and Kian and Edwin, because it's like you're comparing it to a particular kind of masculinity that you saw in the insurrection in Washington, D.C., where it was like about belief and being right and dominance and control and a kind of violence in that. And I'm hearing that was alarming or disturbing for you to see that form of masculinity.
So disturbing, including the righteous people who seem to be leading them there. And so as I think of masculinity and how confusing it must be in this society and all over the world, I especially think of Kian. And how does a young person figure out how to be a man, how to be a boy?
Yeah, so you're extending your warm care and concern for especially young men like Kian, for how confusing it must be. All the messages of what it means to be a man, to be masculine, and how challenging that can be maybe to find one's balance in that, or well-being, or masculine role. Is something like that?
Indeed, yes, yes. And I spent many decades as a feminist and speaking in communities about the confusion of what it means to be a woman. And that doesn't seem so hard anymore. But what does it mean to be a successful man? And why do so many men feel vulnerable and unsuccessful?
So you're noticing that after speaking for so many years in terms of feminism and what it means to be a woman, you're seeing a struggle, and you're wondering why. Why is it so hard for men to find some kind of sense of security within themselves, and knowing that what does success mean, right? As opposed to being vulnerable or afraid or confused.
Yeah. I'm grateful for my husband, my grandson, many of the men I know. And I see how they found their way, often through spirituality and personal growth.
So you're thinking of your husband and some of the men you know who maybe have a sense of stability about them or security in themselves, found their way, as you said. And you're noticing that part of that answer might be around spirituality or spiritual growth or some kind of spiritual practice.
Yeah, receptivity, listening, trusting the process, not having to be in control or right.
Receptivity, listening, trusting the process, as opposed to being in control and being right.
Thank you, Timothy. Yeah. I care so much about how we can have people be successful when their lives have been very difficult. Maybe the mill moved out of town and took their jobs with them.
You're wanting folks to experience success, even when, maybe especially when their lives have been so difficult and factors out of their control. The mill, their employer leaves town, leaves them without income and work, and you're wanting to see success happen. That's 5 minutes, by the way. But do you have any other thoughts?
No, fine, thank you.
Okay. Wondering if you feel heard there and understood?
Oh, very much so. And I felt like I went kind of deeply, and you were right there.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. Hi, Leslie. Would you be willing to listen to me? Thank you. I'm also just taking a pause to feel myself, like I'm feeling a response to what Susan was sharing, to her care. As a man, I was feeling, I still am, I'm feeling kind of like a bell inside me was rung. And, you know, with care, like I'm feel like, how do I say this? I'm receiving care and love for the challenges of what it's like to be a man in this society, this California, North America, you know, the United States society. And you're muted there, Leslie. You might want to unmute.
Sorry about that. I keep doing that. You are pausing to take in and experience the care that Susan offered you. You know, the empathy for what it is to be a man in our culture in North America.
You know, I'm feeling seen and acknowledged. I'm feeling the acknowledgement of the struggle that results from what people call toxic masculinity, a particular belief system and role model of that a man has to know, has to be right, has to provide, has to be in control. You know, all these beliefs, you know, can't feel, has to, what, you know, has to provide incredible pressure.
So you're feeling like an exhale, hearing Susan, appreciating what it is to be a male in our culture, to, you know, all the long list of things that you have to do, the responsibilities and perform and be a certain way. You're feeling the what it is to feel.
It's like being seen, something that I didn't realize I was mourning. When it's finally named, I'm like, oh God, yeah, that's it. I can feel it now. So don't worry, you don't have to catch that piece. I totally feel heard. Yeah, thank you. Thanks. I'm just taking that in. Second thing is I had that something come up when Kian was speaking, and you know, just when anybody says, oh wow, I was struggling because I care so much, I want to catch everything, you know, all at once. When anybody says that, I always wonder, oh, what can I do to help, you know? So that was coming up for me. What can I do to help? Can I share differently, or can I share in briefer? You know, I just really want to meet people. Like if somebody wants to hear, I want to meet them well. So I'm thinking about what I can do to make it easier. That's just on my mind right now.
Mm-hmm. So in the experience with Kian, but broadly speaking, you're kind of looking back to yourself and wondering, like, how can I help people meet me? Because what I really want to do is meet people. And so is there something I can do in my expressing that makes it easier for them to meet me?
Yeah, super. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Let's see. And I'm also sitting here inspired by what Edwin said. Wow, my mind's really in the moment with each of you. I'm really taking in what you're saying. What Edwin said about this moment where the light goes off, whatever your values are, empathy can support these things. And somebody goes, yeah, wait a sec, empathy is helpful to prevent violence or to have protection or to, you know, so that moment when the light goes off, I'm inspired by that moment, and I have so much longing to have that moment happen wherever I go. You know, go ahead.
Yes, no, feeling totally inspired about Edwin's making connects with different needs or values and empathy, and you're really wanting to have the experience yourself of bringing empathy with you and having these connections be made.
Yeah, having people connect to empathy itself. Right. I just have about 30 seconds left, and I wanted to use my time to double check with Edwin and see how much time we have left in this whole circle, because I want to make sure we're all on the same
25
page.
minutes.
25 minutes total. Okay, great. All right. So I'm good. Leslie, thanks so much for catching me there. I feel fully heard. 25 minutes left for this particular circle. Go ahead, Leslie.
All right. Hey, Kian, did you listen?
Yes.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. So again, back to the question that Edwin posed about our values and how they connect to empathy. Another one of my values that I shared on the poll was our perspective, the perspectives we hold being a choice. So like for me, like the understanding that we all can choose how we see anything. I'll pause there.
So your one of your values was the perspective that we all have a choice. We can choose how we see. And you said something about what Edwin said about values.
Yeah, exactly. His question that he posed about how do our values connect with empathy? Yeah. I think that, you know, just the experience of an empathy circle, we're all, by being here, we're making the choice to see things from another point of view, perhaps, as we're listening, right? So we're expressing maybe our point of view and at the same time listening to others. And it's not conflictual in this circle, but it could be. And so I think there's a connection between, you know, understanding that we have that choice about how we see things and being available for empathy.
Yeah, so you're connecting the value of we have a choice on how we see things, our values, our opinions, and others have a choice. And in an empathy circle, you're going to hear other values, other perspectives, and there can be conflict, not in this case, but to remember that, you know, others have a choice, you have a choice is important.
Yeah. I think when people maybe don't have the awareness that how they're seeing something is actually a choice, it's understandably, it's easy to get locked in to this is truth. Maybe this is the only truth. And that obviously cuts off the ability to understand from somebody else's perspective.
Yeah, so when people feel strongly about their values, sometimes they can forget that other people have others, and that becomes the truth and the one and only way, and they're not open to other values. That's challenging.
Yeah, to other ways of seeing, I would say. They're maybe not open to other ways of seeing something. Yeah.
Right. So other ways of seeing they're not open to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good there. I feel heard. Thanks, Ken.
Okay. Is Susan still here?
Yes. I have got off the Zoom call twice and couldn't find you. It put me back in, my video off. I might somehow that, and I'll X strikes again.
All right.
Well, one second,
Well,
Susan. I'm not sure you can hear us right now. Can you hear us, Susan?
Yes.
Oh, good. You can hear. Okay, even if your video is a lot slower, but your audio is working well with us.
Off so I can hear and not get dumped away. I'm sorry for the interruption.
Okay, I'm hearing that your audio is getting interrupted as well as your video. So I'm not sure you're going to be able to hear every. There, we lost her.
All
Kian, you
right.
might want to choose somebody else, at least for this moment, and then we'll come back around.
All right. Yeah. Well, I'll talk to you, Timothy, then.
Okay, great.
All right, 1 second. I was just give me a second here. Yeah. Well, I was just thinking when Edwin was talking about how the other values, or wondering or questioning how they connect to empathy. And I was thinking about the one I put out, which was care. And in my opinion, I feel like those are very, interconnected, because you can't really empathize if you don't care. And you can't have care if you don't have empathy. So I was finding those really connected.
Yeah, so it's hard to see empathy as separate from care, and care is separate from empathy. Those go together really, really well for you, and they enhance each other.
Yeah, and another thing was Susan. She's not here now, but I was gonna say that I really felt, I guess, cared for. I really, when she said, in her turn that it might be challenging and confusing. Like, what does it look like? What is or it must be challenging to be masculine and becoming a man at a time when there's really not a clear, or there is one, like a role model, or I'm talking big picture of what that looks like.
Mm-hmm. So you felt cared for when was expressing concern, for how hard it might be in terms of becoming a man without a role model, or even when there are role models on the bigger picture, but that those role models might not work for you, or just the challenges of that in this modern time.
Mm-hmm.
Being seen for that,
Yeah.
felt the care for maybe being seen for what that's like.
Exactly. Yeah, and I also feel like what, like, 1 second, I just need to. Yeah, I feel that what it is. I feel a challenge, almost a little bit regretful, that I am, I'm male and I am white, and that, because I feel like, well, in this broken society, I feel like that I don't want to have it easier or have it better. I want to experience the same things everybody's experiencing, and it sort of feels like it's assumed, or not anymore, but as much, but like that, I'm going to be successful, I'm going to be whatever. And I'm feeling like, wow, I really want to experience. I want everybody to experience, to be really equal, even though we say we're equal. We're not.
Oh, thank you. I hear you having a deep recognition of a value of equal experience. And you don't want to be excluded from that, being white and male and maybe having certain privileges, right, different than others. You're like, no, I actually, like, you have this pull to be able to have a shared, almost like the word solidarity is coming up for me. Like, I want to be in solidarity, connected to the real human experience, right? I don't want to be isolated from that. I want to be with other people out of maybe a level of care. Am I getting close to that, Kian?
Exactly. Yeah, and I'll just say one more thing. I think I'm feeling like I'm learning that what you are on your outside not anymore has to define what you're on the inside and how you express and how you act and how you are, right? Because we are separate from the outside and the inside, and we are connected. We're both of those, and I'm feeling, that I'm noticing the separation of that. Like, I don't have to be the stereotypical white businessman, like, and I'm feeling, I'm just recognizing what it is.
And that's,
yeah.
So I just want to, that's 5 minutes. I just want to catch you for that. Saying, listen, you know what? I hear you saying, I'm getting a bit of clarity and hope that it's possible not to have to live my internal life according to what I look like on the outside. And I don't want anybody to have to do that. I'm starting to get a sense of freedom and possibility here. And I also hear you like, I'm kind of committed to that freedom, that we don't have our outsides define our internal experience, and that we can actually be more free to be ourselves. Am I getting close to that, Kian?
Yeah, I feel heard.
Okay, cool. I'm really glad. Awesome. Okay, cool. Edwin, logistics. It looks like there's somebody that's named 15102 entered the waiting room, and it says,
I don't even see them.
I could admit them to the main session, or I could view. What do you want me to do?
I don't know how. I will go into the main session and see and try to.
Well, do you want me to admit to the main session? I'll admit the person to the main session.
No, I'll take care of it. Just
okay. Okay. Cool.
Oh, okay. Huh. Interesting.
I've never had this happen before. I'm so sorry. I'm in group 5 with you.
Right. I had to leave the group to see you. I didn't see you somehow. Timothy was able. Let me assign you back to the group, and so we're.
I apologize. I've never had.
No problem. It's just the technology. It's nothing to worry about. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So you should be seeing that. There you go.
Form of expression, right? All these rules of perfectionism and non-emotionality, and just like, I just want to say this. One of my good friends, David Morton, leads a group called Men Against Violence. He's really great, and he helps men who have perpetrated domestic violence recover and move on and grow, right? And he says there's a certain code of belief systems that amount to a violent man, or leading to violence in a man, and he calls it the MRBS, the male role belief system. In other words, Mr. BS. That's what he calls it. I love that. And so I want all of us, Kian. Oh, sorry, you want me to pause? I'll just pause.
Yeah. So first of all, you're also not angry at the you said. Well, I'm gonna say what you just said first.
Yeah.
So you have a good friend who has a group for men against violence, and I'm sorry, could you please repeat?
Absolutely. Yeah. And he calls this is a series of beliefs, right, about what a man's supposed to be. He calls it MRBS, Mr. BS, the male role belief system. And I love that it's kind of it's a belief system, and it's toxic, so it's kind of BS. And these BS belief systems. And I'm happy to start learning about those, so I can see them and hopefully help them dissolve.
All right, so you love the name of the belief system, which is called MRBS, Mr. BS, and you're glad to be learning about that so you can change it.
Yeah, change it, exactly. Yeah, because when you make a belief conscious, then you can start to choose it. But we're also unconscious most of the time. So if there's an unconscious belief, we can't change it. It's just like controlling us, right? So making these things conscious is the first step to changing them.
So you think it's important to make the things that are challenging and upsetting, like like have us know about it, know about them, because when we're conscious, we can choose, we can make the choice of what we want to do.
Yes, yeah. That's good. That's it. And I feel heard. That's 5 minutes. And so thank you for listening to me.
Okay. I'll talk to Susan.
Okay, Susan, you're still muted, so go ahead and there we go.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Well, first, I'm going to repeat. I wish you were here when I said how much I appreciated and felt cared for when you said we're talking about how, wow, it must be challenging to be like trying to find your way as a masculine, especially a young one right now.
You felt cared about by my inquiry into what it's like to be a guy.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm gonna move topics again, but I really wanted to say that.
Thank you.
I feel like what Timothy called our democracy, I love how he said it should be a big empathy circle. I really that just like, I love that seeing of not what it is, but what it should be.
You're resonating with Timothy's calling democracy an empathy circle.
Yeah. And I'm feeling a bit, I guess you could say, hopeful, seeing it that way, but also discouraged because what is currently in the space of our democracy is not anything close to empathy.
Yeah, it is discouraging. What's going on? Doesn't seem like empathy.
Yeah, and I feel, I guess not just discouraged, but quite worried at because of the recent what shall I call it? Well, I'll just say I just call it disrespect of not just the few people in the Capitol building, who had more of who are more impacted, but on the not physical well-being of the community of the country at large.
Oh, so discouraged and really worried about the larger community that represents some of what we saw in Washington.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like I guess a little frustrated that if I as a person who's only had 14 years of experience in life can understand, thanks to my mom, Leslie, and recently Edwin for this empathy experience, if I can understand that we need to be able to listen and empathize and not have to agree or change our perspectives, but just do that. Why can't the people, the adults in power, and why doesn't everybody get that?
Whoa, at 14, you get it. And how come these other people can't listen and understand and empathize? Get it?
Yeah.
Whoa. Thank you. Thanks to Edwin rescuing me and bringing me back in.
Well, and before you go there, Susan, we've got about 5 or 6 minutes left in this circle. So I guess I wanted to give us all a choice. We could all just pause and just kind of debrief what it's been like to be in the circle together and just share a couple things. Or Susan, if you did want to share and continue the process, I wanted to give you that. Obviously, that's your choice right now if you wanted to continue.
How about if I take a minute?
Yeah, please.
I wanted to share my values, and I think my values come from a lot that we're talking about. Number one was compassion. How can I get compassionate with all of these people and all that's going on and some of their leaders? And two is personal and spiritual growth. It's a huge value to expand our consciousness and know ourselves and others. And the third was accepting what is, rather than having to make up a new reality. Thanks. You can see I'm bouncing off the politics.
Awesome. I'm going to catch that as the facilitator, just to make sure you were caught there. The first one, one of your strongest values is compassion. How can I have compassion with everything that's going on with all these folks and their leaders? It's like, oh my God, how do I do that? And it's something I value. So that's number one. Number two, personal and spiritual growth. I heard you say that, expanding our consciousness is an essential value from your perspective, all of us, to grow from the inside out, it sounds like. Yeah. And the third one, I forgot already.
It's accepting what is, dealing with the truth.
Yeah, accepting what is, like making peace with the truth. What is real, is acceptance, and going from there. Did I get that right?
Thank you so much, Timothy. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so I just wanted to maybe thank you for all of us for participating in the Empathy Circle process. And here we are. We have about 3 or 4 minutes to I would invite any of us to share and maybe get some more empathy, just what it was like to be part of this process right now in our first of 5 weeks of training. Anything come up for you? And I'll catch you, or other people, we can catch each other, we'll just kind of make it a discussion right now. What was this like for you?
Timothy, I'd like to just express that I really have such an appreciation for, as an individual, the aliveness and the presence that you bring, and as a facilitator, what you express and exude, like, really lifts this process that I think can falter into being more rote or mechanical, and it just infuses it with just with an aliveness. And I really value that in the way that you hold the group and participate.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm hearing aliveness. Yeah, I got twinkle fingers from, oh my gosh, twinkle fingers. Oh, the twinkle fingers! I feel them tickling me inside and out. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Okay, but Leslie, I heard the aliveness, really, like in terms of guiding and participating. And I imagine there's just like something, kind of an emotional presence or resonance or something. Like, yeah. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. I'm grateful to hear that aliveness. Anybody else? Just, we have another couple minutes here.
I'm thrilled to feel like I'm getting to know you all, and privileged to be in the presence of this mother-son relationship and getting to know. And I have a question for Is that a stand-up paddleboard paddle in your background behind your couch?
Is that Takian?
Yeah, Takian.
No,
Oh, okay.
It's a lamp. It's a lamp.
Ah, my fantasy.
I wish, yeah.
So much for all you're doing here.
1 minute, we'll be closing or getting back.
1 minute.
I just want to say, in the few Empathy Circle experiences I've had, I've felt in some way, you know, closer to the people in the circle than people I've known my whole life in a way. It's just something, it's just amazing. And the other thing I want to say quickly before I have to go is I haven't experienced, and I know I haven't been in a lot of empathy circles, but I haven't seen either. When I was kind of weird when I was talking about, when I was appreciating directly to the person I was talking to something they said. That's something I haven't seen, and it seems like, gosh, that's kind of weird to talk to somebody. It feels like it's breaking the rules, like having a conversation. But yeah, I'll stop.
Okay, bye. We're going now. Bye.
And when we get into the part of the training that's about challenges, then, you know, ask for that. We'll get it and we'll practice it.
Okay, it looks like, are we all back? 22, I'm seeing. Okay, well, we won't, as people come in, we can just do, this is, we're just doing kind of a debrief. So welcome back, everyone. I'm going to select, you know, each of you on my screen and take about a minute to share your experience and insights from the Empathy Circle. How did one of your values relate to the to empathy and the culture of empathy? And I'll just call on people for efficiency of time or something else that came up. One of the things I'll just say very quickly is that some people want to institute this into schools or as an instructional thing. I'm a teacher or retired teacher. So if I can be any help, I am developing a system to do that using various modalities. I put my email in there, and of course it's other places. I'll get started. And Kelly, could you give your impressions?
Yeah, I came in with sort of like some resistant energy about the sort of like value sales pitch hive mind thing going on, but I sort of worked it out in the group. I don't know if we worked it out or I worked it out. I also kind of I don't know, I'm not like a values person, I guess. I don't have a conventional understanding of that idea, but I did have an interesting thing through listening to some people and thinking about some kind of vague idea about this practice, like loosening up like stuck energy in sort of like Buddhist terms, which was interesting, like sort of the practice as like a big toilet flushing. So that was cool.
Thanks for that imagery. I'll be living with that for the rest of the week. Thanks, Kelly. I really enjoyed you. Kate.
Yeah, something that was interesting to hear myself say out loud. I chose the value of honesty, and it occurred to me that as I was speaking about it, that it's important that we put ourselves in a position of allowing others to be empathetic towards us, and if we're honest, that that helps to put ourselves in a position where people can behave in an empathetic way towards us. Because if we're hiding, what can people empathize with? So yeah, that's what I've got to say. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Kate. Nadav?
Yeah. So I found what Kate shared really interesting. It was an interesting point in our conversation about a nice, interesting perspective about empathy. And also I found it interesting hearing myself say that it's empathy gave me the opportunity to make my social surrounding more accurate to my needs. And as I share it with more and more people, it's like people can be more attuned with me. So I like it. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Nadav. Sharon?
Hi. I thought that this was my third circle, and I thought it was really different to the last two. And I think that was because of the depth that we went into. We started with connection and humor, which connected us, and that led to like vulnerability, which was really important, like Kate's mentioned, like the honesty, but there was like a vulnerability as well. And that led to a depth. And I feel like we just almost started to get there. And there was like, it was opening up to become so much more, which would be really, really interesting to see where that would go another time. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. George?
Yeah, thank you, and aloha. Really enjoyed it. I was in the same group with Sharon, and I feel the same way that to bring a group of strangers together, you know, from all around the world, and to be this authentic and vulnerable. It's special. It does. One of the comments I made was, you know, you don't get this many moments in a regular day to be heard and to be understood. And I'm just really excited about the possibilities of not just learning, but sharing this. I think it's going to transform our world and my immediate world. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, George. Kat?
Hello, I was also in Sharon and George's group as well. So I also echo what they were saying there. And I found that as we went into the values, you could sort of see them coming alive, and you could sort of see that as you were on one, you could see the next one linking in, and you could sort of see how that was coming together to build it. So that was really cool to see in practice. And it just started to form into something, and it was like, oh, what is this coming together? It was really interesting. And I really enjoyed it, and it was good to kind of learn the process at the same time as doing it as well. So yeah, that's all I've got to say.
Great, thanks. Thanks for sharing. Cody?
Yeah, there was so much. So I was seeing from so many angles the value of this practice, from just regular conversations, being able to facilitate those, you know, that aren't such so boxed. Something really beautiful that Lou brought up was this idea of the kind of two voices that we can have in our head, one being a critic and one being a nurturer, and how we can have the power and choice to externally and internally point those voices, and both being very, very valuable tools. We'll walk away with that today, which is really cool. But yeah, I was, you know, like Kelly said, I was a little like reluctant to come into, I'm reluctant to come into any kind of training session. Probably an authority problem, but I will, you know, I'm leaving this just so stoked about next week and for the, you know, for the weeks to follow. So thanks everyone.
Great, thanks for coming. Heather?
So I think one of the values that I had selected was authenticity. And I always think of that as in myself being authentic, but I think just through our reflections and sharing in our circle today, I guess I realized how much I mean it to allow others to be their authentic self. And I think that's, you know, kind of the big thing. I guess, I don't know, I guess I would call that my superpower with young people, is that I, you know, I feel like I can really connect with them by allowing them to be who they really are, or actually wanting to find out who they are instead of, you know, putting it onto them. And so it's completely unrelated to anything that we talked about in our, you know, our breakout room, but we all, you know, I felt like we're very authentic, and amazing how much we get to know about each other. And we went, you know, very deep and had a lot of connection. And this, just the idea of, you know, going to training every week on the weekend, like the last thing I do, but it went so fast, and it just really filled me up. So I feel like it was a great experience.
Great. Thanks, Heather. Greg?
I just lots of things. This is great. I think it's interesting doing these trainings because I feel like it's two people in me. One is getting into the actual material of the circle and kind of getting fed by that, and the other is trying to stand back and say, "How's this working? How would I facilitate this? What are my responsibilities if I'm a facilitator?" And like I mentioned earlier, this is the part that makes me nervous. So I'm working on that. It's really interesting though, having those two things going on at once.
Great, thanks, Greg. Kian, if I pronounced that right. Is that right? K-I-A-N, Kian? Can you hear me?
He looks frozen.
Looks frozen, okay. I think Leslie is, Kian, Leslie? Frozen. Okay, all right. We'll see if we can get him back. Oops, okay, now everything is scrambled.
They're coming back in.
Oh, okay, great, okay. All right, and now, of course, my screen, I have to, so Jane.
Yeah, I really had a good time, and I feel like I feel heard, and also I feel included, fully accepted, because like mentioned last time when I attended this Empathy Circle, this kind of a language barrier is always a big challenge to me, and I need some kind of a braveness to participate in this. So every time I participate, I always think about, I trying to be my best, trying to be myself, but I also trying to do my best to fully understood, but fully understand what people say. But at the beginning, I was nervous, and I feel like I do not hinder anybody's thinking to throughout the talking. But at the end, after having this empathy circle, I always feel like, wow, I feel fully accepted among this circle. So that is the same feeling this time also. So I really loved it, enjoying, and I enjoyed a lot of being in part of this empathy circle.
Great, well, thanks for coming, and thanks for your bravery. I know there are other people who are come with for whom English is a second language. I speak one language, so you would help me, and I appreciate and I honor and respect your bravery, and so I just want to show my respect. Okay, all right, and I happen to know 15102. Susan, could you?
I am Susan. I really feel connected to the people in our group. And it was a special privilege to be in the presence of Leslie and Kian as mother-son. And I found myself venturing into talking about an area I'd been thinking about kind of under the surface because of the quality of the men's empathy in our group. And I really appreciate being able to go deeper.
Thanks, Susan. Are you done?
Mhm.
Okay, great. Deborah.
Yeah, really great session. Felt like a real deep connection. And I think I come up use the phrase compassion. I'd heard it before. Compassion is empathy in action, and I felt like our breakout room was values in action. So that was really cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Diane?
Yeah, I had a good experience. It was cool talking about these different values, honesty and acceptance and curiosity were the main ones, and mutuality, and learning about the role of the facilitator in keeping track of what was going on in terms of the mutuality of everybody having fair turns and that kind of thing. And also interesting was it was brought up the different aspects of these values, how they could be, you know, a liability in a certain respect if they were used a certain way versus another way, like curiosity. If we're you know, to be curious about another person and what they're saying, but then it is the positive value, but it could be distracting if they say something that is of interest to me, and then I go off in some tangent on thinking about that thing, or, oh, I want to learn more about that. And, you know, like even in normal conversation, might start asking questions about it instead of keeping track of the whole piece. And also with honesty, you know, honesty can be brutal if it's, you know, used in a judgmental, you know, way, versus, you know, thinking of it in terms of transparency and authenticity, those aspects. So it was very stimulating.
Thanks, Diane. Brandon?
Yeah, thanks, Bill. One of the threads in our group was authenticity, and what I'm going to share here feels like it fits in with a little bit with what Kat was saying and how something was forming. I was actually on a walk this afternoon and stopped to watch a murmuration of birds for a little while, like, you know, flowing in and out of themselves, and seeing, like, zooming in and out and like watching each bird do their thing authentically, and then still be held by the whole, and that whole having its own authenticity also. And I felt like as we made more and more turns of our, you know, speakers, as we kept going on and on, that's what was happening, that there was this, you know, we each had our own authenticity, and then it was brought into the middle, and we were murmurating together, and then we had this, like, we ended with something that was authentic, but a group authenticity, and that was quite beautiful to witness. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Brandon. Kian?
Yeah, I'll keep it simple and say, I am amazed, even though it's not my first empathy circle experience. I'm as amazed as I was with my first one at how much closer I feel to the people in the circle, like even more than people I've, you know, maybe known my whole life. I just am so amazed at what is built in the short time of an empathy circle, and look forward to learning more and doing that with others who weren't in the group that I was in. Yeah.
Thank you, Kian. Leslie?
I think what I'm overwhelmingly feeling is gratitude. One, to Edwin for, I kind of, on edge emailed asking, would you allow a young person to join the group? And he just so enthusiastically said yes. But what I'm really experiencing is my gratitude to the group, even though we weren't in person with all of you, the sense that I have from being even on the large screen with you all, of what I'm able in the state of the world we all live in to share with and show my son. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Take your time.
It is possible for humans, our humanity, the best of who we can be. And I'm so grateful for this opportunity to share it with him and to share it with all of you. Thank you all for your participation in this with us.
Great. Thank you, Leslie. Yeah, the joke I make is that 2 hours ago you didn't know me and now you'd let me house sit. So we'll go on and talk to the trainers a bit. And so let's see, Eli. You're muted.
I have to say that one of the things that stood out to me the most in our group was the humor. We laughed a lot in our group and it was fun at the same time that we were being very authentic and vulnerable and discussing values and whatnot. The humor just really stood out for me.
Great, thanks. Shoshona?
Yeah, I really resonate with what Leslie shared. I'm very grateful also. And a lot of you know, but I also have a son in this cohort. Kelly John is my son, and he brought me into this empathy circle. And yeah, so our circle today, I really felt like the thread I kept thinking about and feeling was mutuality and inclusivity. We talked about different ethnic groups in our country, the different languages, how we feel in our own neighborhoods. And some of the conversation was hard and everybody dug in and was authentic and vulnerable. And, Edwin, I don't know how you feel about me saying it, but I heard Edwin create this phrase, the empathy circle, you get microdoses of love. I definitely got my microdoses of love today. It just felt like a very loving circle. And I just thank everyone who's in our circle. And Edwin, Bill, Lou, thank you so much. You guys, really, thank you.
Well,
Grateful.
thanks for participating. You make it better.
Thanks.
Timothy.
Hey everyone, I'm realizing that my mind is quiet and my heart is open, and I'm enjoying what each and every one of you are saying right now. Like it's a wonderful state to be in. After the group, I'm just kind of here right now. I'm looking at your faces, and some people are almost falling asleep. They're totally late over where you are. Thanks for hanging in. And I'm really enjoying the themes of like Kelly. I love Kelly John. I love you're like, I'm resistant to this BS. It's kind of like a toilet. No, I mean, not you said that, but I love that resistance part. And I'm really celebrating like Nadav and others talking about honesty. Like, actually, wait a second, honesty is pretty powerful too. Empathy is good, but honesty is the other half of it, right? So I can be more aligned. My surrounding can be more aligned with me. So like the application of this beyond, the inclusion, Jane, the being welcome, just hearing the themes, the human themes that we're all swimming in together. I'm happy. And so I'm happy to be included and hoping that as this soaks in, that I don't have to work so hard intellectually to make it work, right? I can actually just enjoy the intimacy and the honesty and the empathy. And that slowly changes me by practicing, So I actually really trust that. Thanks.
Thanks, Timothy, and thanks for your support. Lou?
Yeah, so I was really touched by what Leslie said and even her tears, and because I also feel the depth of knowing that young people need adults who are interested in them and want to understand them and listen to them and have the skill to do that, have the presence to do that. And to the degree that that is embodied by the people who are here today experiencing what we do today, but there's a lot of hope there. It gives me a lot of hope. Yeah, so that's one thing I was feeling that I want to say. Another thing I want to say is people talking about how, you know, how sweet it is to be in an empathy circle and how seen they feel and how connected they feel being listened to and listening to others. And I just want to say that outside of the empathy circle in your lives, you can create that kind of intimacy by being open with others. So I know for a long time I thought, well, I would like more closeness, I would like more intimacy. I wish somebody would ask me about myself, or I wish somebody would be intimate with me. And what I discovered was I can be intimate with others. I can open that door. That's the power that I have, is that I can take that step, opening myself. And the one other thing I want to say is about very strong learning from the circle for me today was the idea that when a listener is having trouble hearing a speaker, I can coach the listener, or I can do a reflection for the listener. And this is the new thing, I can also coach the speaker. Like I could also say to the speaker, so could you simplify what you're saying? Or could you say one idea at a time? So instead of a couple of ideas at a time, so that the speaker can reflect back, whether that's because of a language difference or some other kind of difference, cognitive processing difference or awareness difference or whatever kind of difference it is. So that's, as a facilitator, that's something that I'm taking away from today. And thank you, Jane and Diane, for helping me see that.
Okay, and I just want to, I'm kind of I'm acutely aware of all the pain in our society today, both politically, the pandemic, you know, climate change, and all of that. And so I give this is what I do, I feel, to try to do my part. But I want to appreciate each and one of you for coming here, because we created a culture of empathy today, here, right now, despite everything. And that gives me reason for hope. And each one of your efforts and your bravery coming, you know, gives me hope. And I really thank you all. And I'll hand it back to Edwin.
Okay, I'll just check in on for our group. I covered a lot of different values. The one that stood out for me was democracy, because of what just happened in the Congress and the demonstration, riots, whatever you want to call it. And that the point of democracy being really built on empathy. It's people listening to each other, hearing each other, and I really see that as the core of democracy. And so empathy is really at the core of democracy. And somehow the image of Congress being a giant empathy circle came up, sort of falling short of that, but wouldn't that be nice if it was a big empathy circle? And, you know, the vision of, you know, taking our empathy tent, you know, getting a bunch of people trained, taking the empathy tent and going and setting up in front of the Congress and kind of saying, hey, it's time you all take part in an empathy circle with each other. So being sort of an activist empathy. With that, just wanted to, we just have 2 minutes left. So wanted to just mention that we have, I'll be sending out an email with assignments for the week. The first one would be a session feedback form. So if you'll send out, there'll be a link. You click on that. You can just give any kind of comments or questions about this session. There'll be you'll be matched up with someone in the group for an empathy buddy call. So the as was mentioned, as one of the objectives of the training is to build really a network and a community, a support community. So you'd be matched up with someone and try to have an empathy buddy call with them. Your emails would be there, and try to set up a time to have like a 30-minute call. You get 15 minutes just each to speak and talk about how any experience in the empathy in the training you can get, or anything that's alive for you. And they'll also send out a link to the bigger support information. How do you build a support group? Because going forward, you'll be wanting to facilitate empathy circles. It's good to have people you can work with to do pre-circles, to co-facilitate. And so we're really trying to, set up that community. There's a lot of benefits to that. And then the other assignment is to facilitate an empathy circle with family or friends between now and next week. And you can, sort of a trick that I use, sometimes it's hard to do an empathy circle with your family. You can say, oh, I have this assignment. Would you please, help me with my assignment? I have to do an empathy circle. So they'll say, oh, okay, sure, I'll help you out with that. So that's one way of kind of getting your family to take part. And let's see, I think that's it. So there'll be some more information there in the email. So keep an eye out for that. So I think that's it for me. Anything from the other trainers?
I'll just add that, in next week's class, you'll be practicing an introduction to the circle, and you'll also have a chance to practice facilitating. That'll start next week.
And we try to get a sort of a group portrait of twinkle fingers. If we can just get everybody on the screen doing the twinkle fingers, we'll be posting that. We're going to wait till we get everybody in there. Yay, great. Okay, great. Thank you. Got that. So I think that's our closing. We'll see you next week. Keep an eye out for that email. And if you're one of the trainees or trainers, we're staying on here to do sort of a debrief. So see you all next week. Look forward to it.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. See you next
Bye-bye.
week. Have a good week.
Bye.
Thank you.